So for this kind of problem, we need to understand how to measure millimeters and centimeters. So when we measure centimeters, we actually measure from one line here, usually, to another. Now you'll notice if I marked up from 0 all the way to 30, I would end up having 30 millimeters. Okay. So now, how did I get that? All I did was I took 30 and subtract 0 to get 30 millimeters. So now, what we're going to do is look at what would happen. So now we're going to look at what would happen if, instead of measuring from, say, this position here, from 0, we start at, say, 30 and end here. Okay? I'll tell you that the distance between here and here, there are 10 little lines here. I call them ticks. Those ticks represent 1 millimeter. 1 tick equals 1 millimeter. So if I am looking at this and it ends exactly halfway, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 65, and then this is 30. To get the distance between here and here, what we must do is we must subtract 65 minus 30 on our calculators, and we get 35 millimeters. Okay, so notice how we're just sort of practicing this. So we're going to clear this. I'm going to clear this out again, and we'll do some more. So those ticks that we were talking about right here, remember we said 1 tick was 1 millimeter on this ruler here. And you'll notice that there is a centimeter ruler just below it. So here's what would happen. If I wanted, say, to mark down 11 millimeters, 11 mm, in order to find 11 millimeters on my centimeter ruler, I would count 11 ticks across here, and we end up with, instead of 11 millimeters, we end up with 1.1 millimeters. So imagine I was looking at, say, 62 millimeters. I would look for the number 6, and I would look for 2 ticks past that. 2 ticks past that is, well, if that's 60, this is 6.2 millimeters. And where does this come? What? Wait a second. This reminds me of something that we studied before. If I went from centimeters to millimeters, I would times my stuff by 10, otherwise known as move the decimal for a centimeter over 1 to end up with 62 millimeters. So now if I'm actually going from millimeters to centimeters, this is where we got the idea of dividing by 10. So instead of dividing, let's just take the decimal and move it over 1 spot. And you'll notice my new spot where my value is for 62 is 6.2, which is what we have here. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So if you think about it, to go from centimeters to millimeters, so this is millimeters, and then this is centimeters, we would divide our millimeters to get our new centimeters. And then if we were going backwards, we'd do the same. So now here's my question. If I looked at the next problem here, how long is this line? So it goes from 0 to 5. And then I count the number of ticks, and that number of ticks gives us the decimal part of our number. So we would have 5.4 centimeters. To get 5.4 centimeters and change it into millimeters, we have to use what we talked about before. If we want to go from centimeters to millimeters, we have to literally multiply our number by 10. So in order to take 5.4, I'm just going to write the number 54 here. 54. I'm going to write all the digits for 5.4 down. And then imagine there's a decimal right here. And I am multiplying by 10. So that means I need to move my decimal over to the right to right where I'm pointing right now. So 5.4 centimeters is 54.0 millimeters. Check. So now let's go and practice some. So if I was measuring this and I was measuring the length, okay, I'm going to measure this because this is just numbered 1 to 13. This is being measured in centimeters, right? And now that I'm measuring this thing in centimeters, I have to look at what each of these little blocks end at. They start at and end at. So this one starts at 10 centimeters and ends at 11 centimeters. So how long is this? So we go 11 minus 10, which gives us 1 centimeter. Now, I could also ask you, could you change that into millimeters for me? Which is the same as, well, 1 centimeter going to millimeters is just take 1 and move the decimal place over 1 spot and then fill it like we did yesterday. So we have 10 millimeters or 10.0 millimeters. You could write it that way as well. Check. So now pause the video, try the next one. So if you got for the start 4 centimeters, you're correct. If we're looking at the end here, it actually touches, it's past 11. So we know that it's at least 11 centimeters, but there's a decimal place here. And we just count the number of dots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is 11.5 centimeters. So how long is the red bar now? So all we have to do is take our handy dandy calculator and subtract. And this ends up being 7.5 centimeters. Pretty easy, eh? That's what we're working on. So now what I want you to do is I want you to practice the problems that we have online that I posted for you as a PDF. And if you don't want to do the PDF, you can always do the practice online and send me that as well. So now let's practice one more time. Some of you guys like using number lines. Isn't that great? I love it too. So let's say we have these 2 points on this graph here. So right here we have 2 centimeters. And this endpoint here, we have 13 centimeters. All right, so you want to figure out how much this is on your sheet that you have. You can do this by hand. Just count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you notice how I started here I started right here, but I didn't count it. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is 11 centimeters. If you show me that you're doing that loop, it's not a problem. Now, a problem like this last one, it does start with 11, but then it ends at 11.5. How the heck am I going to do that? Well, let's make your life easy. Let's count all the whole parts. Start at our 0 spot and don't count that, just count the first loop. 1 loop, 2 loop, 3 loops, 4 loops, 5 loops, 6 loops, 7 loops, 8 loops, 9 loops. And so it's 9 loops, and we just count the little units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 0.5 centimeters, and we're done. So now what I want you to do is do the practical measurement that I provided for you. And then I'll also put up the worksheets that I actually want you to do for Tuesday.